around the world. Normally when I start these shows, I'm very, kind of upbeat and excited. And I am always excited about doing the show. But listen, what's going on around the world is it's just getting out of hand. It's crazy. I mean, no matter where you look, no matter whether it's South America, whether it's Europe, whether it's Asia, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's Africa, there's conflict. Now, throughout our generations and throughout our lifetime in the world, there's been constant, types of war and conflict. There's no doubt about that. But what we're seeing now is just, I think, in the era of mass communications, the era of, weapons that can, actually do more to destroy the world and just social economic issues around the world. I think the amount of violence that we're seeing, the amount of war we're seeing, basically what I would consider the realignment of the world order. It is really getting out of hand. Anyway, so today we're going to be focused on the Middle East, and we're going to be talking about what's going on there. You can't turn on your TVs these days without seeing what's going on. And for full disclosure, I lived in Lebanon for 3 years. It's an amazing country. It's a country that I called home. I miss it. I have lots of friends there. But it's a very, very, I would say, one of the most complicated and complex countries in the world when it comes to how the politics work, who the people are. And so it's not surprising, unfortunately, that what we're seeing is happening. But so what we're going to do is we're going to take one quick break, and then when we come back, we'll be honored to have Brigadier General Khalil Helou with us, directly from Beirut, and we'll be talking about what's going on there. As I said just before the break, we're honored to have with us retired Brigadier General Khalil Helou, coming to us from Beirut, which, as we all know, it's a crazy time there. So let's just jump into this. So, General, to kind of tell us what's going on. I mean, you're there in Beirut. Give us a little background about what's happening and why we got to where we are.
Well, we are in the middle of an attrition war between Israel and the Hezbollah organization. You know that Hezbollah is allied to Iran, is allied to Hamas in Gaza, and is allied to some armed organizations in Syria and Iraq. All of them called the axis of Mumana, the axis of opposition to Israel and to the United States. So Israel is in war with the Hezbollah since 11 months. In 15 days, this war will end its first year. But what happened during the past week was really crazy. It is an escalation that has never been seen in Lebanon in modern history. It started on September 17 when Israel detonated around 3,000 pagers carried by Hezbollah members. All of them have been wounded, but 20 or 21 have died. 500 of them lost their eyes and their hands because the device exploded instantly between their hands when they were trying to read the message. It was a pager. The second day, talkie-walkies detonated also, and the total persons killed in these two incidents were 70 people, most of them Hezbollah members, either military or civilians. Some women and children also have been killed who were at proximity of these devices. And then Israel started an air campaign never seen before, and the culmination point was yesterday with around 1,000 air raids on 1,600 targets of Hezbollah in Lebanon. Yesterday only, 500 people have been killed. Some civilians and militaries, I'm talking about Hezbollah members, 1,000 have been wounded. Hospitals are crowded. The roads linking South Lebanon to relatively calm areas are crowded with cars. People spent 10 hours in their cars, and they had a lot of problems of water, problems of food, problems of gas. Some cars ran out of gas. It was a real chaos and a real dramatic situation. Now, this is the description of what's going on. Of course, Israel has air superiority. It has intelligence superiority, technological superiority, a large room of maneuver, firepower that is huge yeah, compared to Hezbollah firepower. Nevertheless, despite all these air raids and these targetings and the destruction of weapon stores and missiles launchers all over Lebanon, and all these damages Hezbollah had, or despite all this, Hezbollah is continuing to fire rockets and missiles toward North Israel and even Central Israel. This morning, some places located at 100 kilometers south of the Lebanese-Israeli border have been targeted by Hezbollah missiles. Nevertheless, this firepower that Hezbollah is using is not to compare with what happened in Lebanon yesterday. But Hezbollah is still realizing or is still achieving some major objectives in Israel. First of all, you have 70 to 80,000 Israelis that fled their villages since 1 year and are unable to come back because of the danger of the rockets of Hezbollah. And yesterday, at least 1 million Israeli, and the day before and during all the past week, 1 million Israelis spent most of their days in shelters. And the Hezbollah is paralyzing northern and central Israel and is targeting even military bases and air bases. But of course, the damages that are inflicted by these attacks are minor compared to the damages that they are suffering, that Hezbollah is suffering, and that Lebanon is suffering. Now, on the other side of the border, I mean in Lebanon, we had since 1 year till 1 week before, 100,000 people who were displaced from South Lebanon because it is the combat area, it's a theater of operations. Yesterday, 1 million people fled the rest of South Lebanon till the city of Saida, the major southern city of Saida, or known as Sidon. Now, if you take the line going from Sidon in the west to the city of Jazin in the mountain and to the lake of Karaun on the Litani River, this line, east-west, all what is located on the south of this line is targeted by Israel, and the Hezbollah supporters, mainly Shia population of Lebanon, fled this area and are now dispersed in official schools, in villages, in wherever they could find a place to dwell in. So this is what is happening, and of course the losses, the economical losses of this war till now is estimated by $5 billion in Lebanon, with hundreds of thousands of olive trees that have burned. 350,000 animal farms have been killed, and Hezbollah lost till now, before yesterday, till now they lost at least 650 fighters, and Israel is still targeting Hezbollah leadership. The first rank leadership, 3 of 4 of them have been killed, targeted by Israel. Yesterday evening, Israel tried to kill the fourth one, but it didn't succeed. He escaped this attempt, and the mid-class, or let's say the mid officers of Hezbollah, I mean guys who are in charge of the theater of operation, tens or dozens of them have been killed, and the total number is, as I said, about 650. Now, I don't know yesterday how many Hezbollah people have been killed among the 500 people who have been killed in few hours yesterday. So this is the situation, and the drama is that Iran, the major supporter of Hezbollah, the major country that encouraged Hezbollah and enforced Hezbollah and financed and armed Hezbollah, to face Israel and to face the United States and to face the West. Iran is sending signs of appeasement toward the United States, is asking for negotiations for the nuclear issue between the Washington and Tehran, and not only one call but several calls during these last weeks. And even the supreme leader of the Iranian leadership, Mr. Khamenei, twice he said it is legitimate to have a tactical enemy. Sometimes it is necessary, and he was citing the Quran in order if we can confirm this in the next days or next weeks, that Iran has at least Iran for sure will not intervene to help Hezbollah as promises came several times during this past year. So there is a huge disappointment within the popular basis of Hezbollah, within the supporters, because Iran didn't move any small finger to prevent or to dissuade Israel from doing what Israel is doing now, knowing that Hezbollah opened the war on the 8th of October 2023, saying that they are supporting Gaza. When the war in Gaza broke on the 7th of October, Hezbollah opened the Lebanese front on the 8th of October. Until now, Hezbollah is refusing to cease fire because they are justifying this position by supporting Gaza and saying whenever there is a ceasefire in Gaza, we will stop. And Israel is asking them to withdraw from the South Lebanon according to the United States Security Council Resolution 1701 that stipulates that no weapons should be present in the south, and especially in the southern Litani River, except the weapons of the Lebanese army. Hezbollah is refusing to comply with this resolution till now, despite all the losses he suffered. And we are not expecting things to change, at least at sight, despite the Iranian position and despite the Israeli pressure and despite these losses. And among people who have been killed yesterday, there are women, there are children, there are entire families that perished under the Israeli strikes. So this is a summary as much as possible of what is going now in Lebanon.
Well, I appreciate that. It's a very complex situation. Listen, we have a couple of minutes before we take a break, but let me ask you this question. One thing that I think the viewers need to understand is, you have Hezbollah, and you have Lebanon, the country. I mean, I know that Israel has come out and said, listen, this is a war against Hezbollah and not against the Lebanese people. Can you just quickly, in a couple of minutes, explain the difference between Hezbollah as an entity and Lebanon as a country, just so people understand that there is a key distinction between the two?
Of course, of course. Now, for people who don't know Lebanon, Lebanon is a small country, 10,500 square kilometers. In Lebanon, you have 18 different communities. It's a sectarian country by nature. It is inherited since centuries ago. And there are different parties, and that every party represents a community. This is to summarize. The Christians have their own parties, the Sunnis have their own parties, and the Shia have two major parties. One of them is Hezbollah. Hezbollah represents the majority of the Shia community in Lebanon. And more than half of the Lebanese population are opposed to Hezbollah. The major Christian parties of Lebanon are opposed to Hezbollah. The major Sunni parties are opposed to Hezbollah, and the major Druze parties are opposed to Hezbollah. Nevertheless, there is a truce now in Lebanon between Hezbollah and its opponents. And this truce is to avoid a civil war in Lebanon. but it doesn't mean that Lebanon supports Hezbollah. Hezbollah is represented in the government by two ministers, and these two ministers now are sending signs that the Lebanese government will to negotiate indirectly with Israel. Now, this is a sign that Hezbollah is starting to accept some negotiations, but it will not. I don't think it will flourish. But let's continue. So there is a huge difference between a party, an armed party, by Iran, trained by Iran, that has an ideology of the Iranian ideology. It means the Wilayat al-Faqih, the leadership of the Islamic world by the Khamenei. And this is against the constitution in Lebanon. So this party has adopted this ideology and is armed and trained by Iran, and has been founded 40 years ago in 1982, 42 years ago, and is controlling some parts of Lebanon that are targeted now by Israel. I mean South Lebanon and some parts of the Bekaa Valley. And this party is represented in the parliament by 17 members of parliament, over 128 members, and they have ministers in the government, and they are practically, with their weapons and their paramilitary force, they control the major decisions in Lebanon against the will of the rest of the Lebanese. This is Hezbollah and this is Lebanon. It's not the same at all.
Let's continue on. I mean, so you talked about just before the break the distinction between Hezbollah and Lebanon. Now, within Lebanon, I mean, my understanding is, I agree with you. You have the Litani River. The Israelis say that we want to be able to, put our 60, 80,000 residents back on the border. So therefore, Hezbollah is going to have to be pushed back to the Litani River, which is according to the UN resolution. Honestly, being in that country, the question is whether there'll be a ground invasion or not. I mean, one question for you is that, within the country, you have a very strong Christian militia as well. If there's an invasion of Lebanon, per se, where do you think the Christian forces will end up? Will they side with Hezbollah in some ways to push the Israelis out, or will they stay separate? Or, I mean, that's the kind of the powder keg internal to the country.
Yes, the Christian parties have abandoned their militias, and they have dismantled their militias and abandoned the military part of their activities since 1990. And they are now present in the official military. I mean by this, the Lebanese army that is multi-sectarian. The Lebanese army is composed of Christians, Sunni Muslims, and Shia Muslims, and Druze. Every community can join the army, and the army is a mixture of all these. The Lebanese army till now has a rather neutral attitude to what is going on, because the Lebanese army, part of it, is deployed in South Lebanon with the international forces. Now, there is a deployment of what we call the UNIFIL, the United Nations Interimary Force for Lebanon. And the Lebanese army is deployed side by side with the UNIFIL, and is complying to the resolution 1701, or at least what is implemented of this, the part that is implemented of this UN resolution. So the Lebanese army is not now fighting Israel, because officially the situation between Lebanon and Israel is through this resolution 1701 and through truce that has been signed in 1949. All these two conventions, or these two accords, are still valid till now, and the Lebanese army is complying to it. So the Christians are within the army and are supporting the army, and the army now facing this wave of displacement of people in South Lebanon has a huge job on the hands, because this population that is supporting Hezbollah is now searching to hide in mostly Christian areas, because these areas are safe. Israel is not targeting these areas because there is no Hezbollah presence, at least no apparent presence of Hezbollah within these areas. So the Christian attitude for now is opposing Hezbollah, asking Hezbollah to cease fire, asking Hezbollah to comply to the resolution 1701, asking Hezbollah to drop their weapons and give them to the Lebanese army. This is the official position of the Christian parties and even of the Sunni parties also. So the attitude of the army now is let's say, is an opening for the future, because whatever happens, it will end by negotiations. Hezbollah will never win. Israel may or may not invade Lebanon, but in the end, there will be no invention of new resolutions or new settlements. The only settlement that could stand is the deployment of the Lebanese army in South Lebanon and the exclusivity of the use of weapons by the Lebanese army. And this is why this army is preparing this phase. So no hostile attitude toward Hezbollah for the time being, because population of South are supporters to Hezbollah, and no war with Israel, because Israel should have to accept this force on its borders according to some settlements based on the resolution 1701.
As you said earlier, if Iran is actually not supporting Hezbollah, or kind of quote unquote turning their back against Hezbollah, then the question becomes: it's going to be very difficult for Hezbollah to maintain a sustained war against Israel, because rearming them is basically from Iran. So that's a major thing if that actually comes true. But so, do you think, in 2006, Israel went all the way up to Beirut when they invaded the country in 2006? Do you think there's any chance that the war could escalate and that there could be an invasion that actually goes all the way to Beirut? Do you think, people in Beirut should be worried and concerned like yourself?
Well, in 2006, Israel didn't invade all Lebanon. It invaded only the south till the Litani River. Beirut has been targeted and bombarded in 2006 more intensely than now. Till now, the targets in Beirut are four only, from 1 year till now. Beirut has not been targeted as in 2006. But if Hezbollah continues to refuse the ceasefire and to comply with the resolution 1701, we think deeply that Israel will continue this campaign. It will continue pressing Hezbollah, and let's say land forces, ground forces of Israel could invade Lebanon, but I don't think that they will reach Beirut. It is beyond their targets. It's beyond their objectives. Their major objective is to get the 70,000 Israelis back to northern Israel. But going to Beirut means that the war has another objective that hasn't been declared yet. As far as I know, the Israelis never said that they want to dismantle Hezbollah or to end Hezbollah. On the contrary, they said that they will dismantle Hamas and will eliminate Hamas. Regarding Hezbollah, they didn't declare this, at least till now. But things may slip and escalate and spiral down, because the only country that could stop this escalation is the United States. Till now, the United States didn't succeed to stop the escalation. It succeeded to forbid Israel from a ground campaign. And when we are getting closer and closer to the US presidential elections, the capacity of the US to stop this escalation will decrease with time. So this is why there is a huge risk of an Israeli invasion to South Lebanon, at least, if things continue this way and if Hezbollah sticks to its previous positioning.
No, listen, I agree. I agree with the U.S. presidential election. Given the uncertainty of who's going to win, it's going to be a very close election. That I think that leads and gives the opportunity to a lot of the what I call unsavory actors around the world to do whatever they want to do. So we'll have to see what happens. Anyway, and we have 1 minute left. So what else would you like for us to know before we part ways here?
Nice. Yeah, I think that the entire world should know that the Lebanese people is a peaceful people. because the perception that the world has toward the Lebanese is that these people are warriors and their hobby is wars and going to war. No, we are not like this. Even though that our country is a theater of multiple wars since 50 years. Everything started in 1973 between the Lebanese army and the Palestinian organizations, and then the war changed belligerents, and now it is between Israel and Hezbollah. Our land is historically a land of wars, but our people is a people of peace. So this is what the world should know. We like to live, we like to hear music, classical music, folk music, we like to dance, we like to drink beer, wine, and arak, we like to eat, we like to gather in family, and we like to gather between friends to go hiking, and this is what we are. This is the real face of Lebanon that is now masked by this dirty war.
Hmm. Well, by the way, I just got a note from the studio that we have an extra 9 minutes to chat if you have time, because the conversation, people have seemed to be enjoying it, which I am as well. So if you have a few more minutes, I have a couple of other questions for you. I was reading a story the other day, in Lebanon, just correct me if I'm wrong on this, you have, the president must be a Maronite, the Speaker of the House must be a Sunni, or Shia, and then the prime minister must be a Sunni. I think I may have that, correct, or maybe turned around
Yes.
there a little bit. But I know the patriarch. I was talking to some other friends there, and the patriarch, which is on the Christian side, where is he standing on this? Has he called for a ceasefire? Is he against Hezbollah, or where does he stand on this issue?
Now, the Maronite Patriarch is the head of the largest Christian community in Lebanon. People should know that in Lebanon you have 13 different Christian communities, and you have at least seven patriarchs, and these are the Eastern Christians that are living not only in Lebanon, in Israel, in Palestine, in Syria, in Jordan, and in Iraq. So the patriarchs that are in Lebanon are in charge of all these people of different nationalities. Now, coming back to the Maronite patriarch, he is the most powerful religious personality in Lebanon. He is against the weapons of Hezbollah. He is with the implementation of the resolution 1701. He pleads always to stick to the Lebanese constitution, where there is no room for Hezbollah and no room for weapons of Hezbollah, and he always calls for the implementation of the rule of law and for the exclusivity of the use of force by the Lebanese armed forces. This is the official positioning of the patriarch. And if you go back to everything, every document that went out from the patriarch and from his location in Kirki, you find that this positioning is stable, fixed. It has never changed with time since 50 years.
Hmm. So let's talk about Hezbollah once again. I mean, what is the solution? I mean, do you think Hezbollah as an organization can ever be defeated? Do you think that I mean, do you think Lebanese are just are going to have to accept Hezbollah for the rest of their existence, or what is the future? If you could look forward 5 years from now, what would you say is the status of things in Lebanon?
Well, there are two, let's say, two answers. The first answer is goodwill, let's say, or so the rule of law, because when there is no more weapons with Hezbollah, automatically they are under the protection of the Lebanese army. When they turn into a peaceful party, political party, like every party, there is a law in Lebanon and there is a constitution and there are armed forces and police who will protect everyone, because before the law we are all equal. There is no law for Hezbollah and law for non-Hezbollah. So this is their only exit strategy, and they know that. But till now, they are hoping that with their force, they could escape this. Now, if they don't comply with all this international resolutions and the Lebanese constitution and Lebanese laws, if they don't comply with all this, I think that they will be, in the end, they will be defeated, because the free world is against them. Iran seems to be abandoning them. The Arab world is against them, Israel is against them, and half of the Lebanese people are against them. Logically, they cannot survive this on their own. So I think that their only exit strategy is to get back to the Lebanese state, to turn into Lebanese citizens, to stick to the Lebanese laws and to the Lebanese constitution.
So let's talk about the LAF again. I mean, you have UNIFIL. I mean, if the Israelis actually do cross the border, what does the United Nations? What is UNIFIL going to do? Are they just going to move out of the way? Are they going to?
No, UNIFIL are in Lebanon under Chapter 6 of the United Nations. They are not a fighting force. They are a force of peace control. They are not allowed to use force against Israel or against anyone. They are there just to observe the peace, to help the Lebanese government to implement its sovereignty. It is the Lebanese government that should use force, not the UNIFIL. The UNIFIL to use force should be under Chapter 7. They are not under Chapter 7, and to turn them into Chapter 7, they need a United Nations Security Council resolution, and this is unlikely because of the Russian and Chinese vetoes that are likely in a situation like this.
Listen, as you said about the Lebanese people, they're amazing people, loving people. It's the alphabet was actually created in Lebanon, by the Phoenicians way back when. I mean, it's one of the most. I would encourage once the war is over, as many people to visit Lebanon as possible because economically, well, one off kind of topic issue. Economically, we all know that the country is. You were saying that this war has cost $5 billion. I don't know where Lebanon is getting $5 billion to even soak this up because it's just in such dire fiscal straits. I mean, fiscally, where do you see the solution in the future? Do you think KSA is going to come into support, or what is the economic future of the country?
Well, economy is not my specialty, is not my field, but I can tell you that our geographical position is always favorable for a recovery, for an economic recovery. Lebanon has been founded by the Phoenicians, and the Phoenicians founded their civilization on trading because they were located between huge civilizations. They were a small people, so they used trade. In Lebanon, there are no resources till now. Maybe we will have someday gas or oil, but our agriculture is insufficient to feed our people. Our industry is a transforming industry. So I think that we can recover because we have a culture of trading and of business. What we need is just peace. And when we will have this peace, the recovery will not be difficult because we are in the middle of an Arab world that is rich. We are very close to Europe that is economically prosperous, even though now you have the problem of Ukraine and so on. But I think that our culture and our geographical position is very favorable. Now, currently, the economy is catastrophic and the financial situation is catastrophic. This is all I can say because I am an ignorant in, in economy, like all militaries and all geopoliticians.
Well, you're definitely not ignorant by any stretch of the imagination. Well, listen, General, I really appreciate your time today. It's very informative. I look forward to having you on the show again as things progress. Hopefully peace will break out in the region and around the world. Anyway, thank you again
Thank
for
you.
being on the show. Thank you for joining us around the world with Dane Waters, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Goodbye.